Welcome to the No Script Show, episode 3 of Black History Month, and welcome back to every man who came back from the first men's conference just in time for Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day was rough, just going by the memes. Um, there were people posting photos of flowers on bins and boxes of chocolate on the ground, and it's just like, oof.
Wow, really?
Oh, yes. Although I think the winners are, I think it's Claire, and I don't know who the guy's name was, but I was staying in an Airbnb in Cape Town last week, and there was apparently a Valentine's Day fight. So, two people arguing in a very echoey atrium at 11 p.m. on the day. And it's the kind, you can't really make out the words. I think somehow Claire was involved. So, whoever you are, I'm so sorry that you guys had to keep the rest of us awake at 11 p.m. for a loud argument. Dude.
Nothing says suburban white people like arguments all your neighbors can hear.
No kidding. Yeah, also, I got into a lift with a guy that had it looked like gas station flowers in a lunch bar. And I'm like, okay, dude.
At least he's trying.
Yes.
At least he's
I
trying.
can't talk shit. I had nobody to give a Valentine's to, so I can't talk shit. But still, it's just it's a weird day of the year. But it's over now, thank God. And Christmas is only 300 days away, so...
Get hype, bro!
Fucking hell, dude.
I've already started riding the Christmas hype train. No.
February, what
Hold
the
on.
hell?
I haven't started yet. I'm still on the Halloween hype train because at least this year on Halloween I'll actually be able to participate because last year I was studying for my GREs and all that stuff. And working at a previous company. But this year, my second favorite holiday of them all, I'm ready for.
Nice. So, have you given any thought to what you're going to do for Halloween?
Probably the first girl named Cindy or Mandy.
Okay. All right. Got it. I will not ask any more questions. All right. So
I tried to get us to the demonetized point of the podcast as soon as possible, right up front.
Within the first 2.5 minutes. No, that's good. I think next time we'll just open with a racist joke right in the intro, and then that'll be it for the episode. Yeah. Okay, so just like last week, I've sort of been in a vortex of work. I haven't actually paid much attention to anything other than the load shedding, which was ridiculous. And all the conspiracy theories, which were quite funny.
Do you wanna expand on that a bit? Because you paid more attention to it than I have.
Yeah, and first I have to point out that I think there's maybe only 2 places in the country that survive load shedding, and I'm pretty sure it's Soweto and the Cape Town CBD.
Really? I was gonna say, what about Pretoria, the University of Pretoria, and the power grid around the union buildings? Those two never go offline.
It's exactly that. So in Cape Town, there's the what's it called, the hospital line, which which feeds the Memorial Hospital, and anything on that line tends to stay up. So I spent the whole week sort of in an office that did not go down, and it's so I've got load shedding privilege, I think you could say. But anyway, so the load shedding was a horrific story because it happened 3 days after the president announced the unbundling of Eskom, and then it stopped a day after he announced there won't be any job cuts, and everyone's like, what's going on? But one of the stories that circulated was that there's a company that Eskom has failed to pay. And here's the thing I didn't even know. I learned this. And it's the kind of thing I feel like I should have known, is that coal-fired stations produce a lot of ash, because of course they do. You're burning coal, right?
Yes.
This is basic physics, guys. I'm the one who didn't know. I never thought about it, right? I never think about these things. But apparently that ash has to be cleaned away, and that's still largely a manual process, which is kind of weird. So for the last couple of days, these workers from this outsourced company dropped tools, and there was a photo that circulated of a power station just flooded with ash. And that actually damages the rest of the equipment because it's ash. It's abrasive. It will destroy things. And so it's I don't know how the hell that happened. But I looked at that photo and I was like, are you for real? How did we get here? What is going on? So yeah, and it's like the moment they started like, yeah, there'll be no job cuts. It's like suddenly the power starts coming back, and it's like, no, load shedding. Because the thing is, it went, and this was the part that blew my mind. On the Tuesday, I think we went from stage 2, which we got to because the diesel supplies were low and the water supplies and the dams were low, so they had to start load shedding, which kind of makes sense. Not that the world's run out of diesel, but anyway. And then it suddenly hit stage 4 because in the space of 5 hours, they lost 6 additional power generating units. And I'm like, what the fuck? That doesn't happen. Like, how did they not know? And they said it was unforeseen outage, or like it was they couldn't predict that the units would go down. And then it's like the first thing they're going to do is conduct a full audit of all the power systems. And I'm like, what the fuck have you people been doing that you don't have full insight into your own systems? What? After all the money spent on like all these consulting companies and all that shit, for real, you for real do not have insight. And I think the unexpected downtime, quote unquote, was the union members just going on strike. And that's not what they didn't tell the press that, but I think that's what it was. Because they threatened, like, oh, we'll take this to the streets and we'll show them that we're serious. And then the power goes down. Like, okay.
Yeah. And now that the ESCOM's being unbundled, the unions are up in arms about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was discussing this with my brother, and we summarized this perfectly in that, yeah, like that one Wesley Snipes quote. Was it? I think it was. No, it was Blade 3 where he's like, some niggas are always trying to skate uphill. The unions are those niggas trying to skate uphill, bruh. Like they just, because we know why you're mad. This has nothing to do with anything other than the fact that you need a certain percentage of the workers of an industry for something to work. And if we split it into 3, you no longer have that power. You will lose that power that you held onto for so long.
That's an interesting point. Like, I hadn't thought about the unbundling at all, because from a financial point of view, it doesn't actually solve anything.
Exactly.
But the power split, okay.
They're just being crab-ass niggas trying to skate uphill, like Blade said in Wesley Snipes.
My favorite was like, the unbundling will cause thousands of job losses. And it's like, bitch, if the power goes down, it causes millions of job losses. Let's get some perspective here. You know?
I was listening to the radio, it was a 702 thing, and like unions are like the antithesis of understanding how labor works. Because the one union,
which is ironic, right? It's profoundly fucking ironic. Yeah.
It's like, was it? I think it was Kosato or something. I don't know what they were, but there was that day of action to cause as much inconvenience as possible. Was it Tuesday that they were driving to Limpopo? It doesn't matter, but it was one of their vice chairs or what the hell ever made up ranks, and he's having a discussion with Bingwa from 702, Bongani Bingwa, and he's like, and he asks him, the DJ presenter asks him a valid question of, if you do this inconvenience, you're screwing up the economy even further, thus hurting the very members you're supposed to protect, and possibly causing more job losses. And he's like, no, but nothing we're asking for is unreasonable. We just want all our jobs to be protected. I'm like, if you wanted your jobs to be protected, you wouldn't for the last 15 years have gone to every single fucking measure possible to make labor expensive, everything unproductive. You guys caused this, and now you guys are shocked. It's like that one meme, that Pikachu meme where somebody's shocked, like Kosato causes labor and everything to be expensive. Layoffs, Kosato shocked.
Yeah, it's actually,
You are the ones they're like.
I'm trying to think. There's another little meme where it's like the caption something like, when you finally confront the person that's screwing up your life, and the photo is like a bird screaming into a mirror at another bird. That's him. And it's like, yes. And that's actually, that is so true. I mean,
you are the ones causing this. And it's like, when I was younger, like I always thought, why can't businesses just pay more? Like, I think a lot of them genuinely believe that businesses and industrialists are Scrooge McDuck, and they dive into gigantic vaults several stories tall, filled with money, and they just don't want to pay people. That's what I think they genuinely
Yeah.
believe, or at least a lot of them anyway.
Yeah, okay, so we're back onto the financial literacy portion of our show. I think at this point we should just create like no script finance or something, just like a
Yes.
15-minute segment, which is like, this is why you can't pay everyone in fast food $20 an hour, and then explain economies of scale. Because, like, again, I saw,
But there's so much tech and economy to get into this week, bro.
I know,
We may not even have like a Black History. No, we will. We will.
we will.
Sorry.
It is a priority this month, because this month doesn't happen again until next year. So,
Yes.
but just on that, I can't. Somewhat related, there was a New York Times headline. Now that fast food workers have got their $15 an hour, victory, they're pushing. Next thing is unfair firings, which is like, okay, I get it. Activists have to activate. Like, you can't just. It's never good enough to win a victory and then stop, right? These people have to keep going. So, okay, fine. When the fuck did fast food become a career? I want to just seriously ask this question, because it's like...
It's like, yeah, like that's not the point of fast food. That's not the point of fast food or any other minimum wage job.
Okay, so again, just balance...
Maybe if you're a manager, though, like McDonald's and stuff, like, yeah, I guess
sure.
it's career.
It's like, sure, you start out in retail serving bitchy and difficult customers, and you get a feel for the industry, and then either you progress up in that industry or you progress out into something else. Here's the thing. There's that saying, again, I think it's, was it Hayek? Is that, if socialists understood economics, they wouldn't be socialists. And I see a lot of these people who are like, they can afford $15 an hour. These companies make billions. And it's like, okay, there's a huge difference between revenue and staff cost and all the rest. But it's like, if you're not smart enough to see that, then maybe a fast food job is the only one you can actually work. And as cruel as that sounds, if you're not going to learn how the world around you functions, then I'm sorry, but you're going to be stuck there, because you can't add value anywhere else. Like, this is the part that blows my mind. And maybe it's legitimately this whole thing of everyone's overqualified. The US is like awash with degrees that are kind of meaningless. And it all adds up to people that are forced to work these kind of menial jobs, because there aren't any good opportunities. But then I also look at this and I'm going, there's so many problems to still solve in the world, and there's still so much money to be made. I don't understand. Why would you fight for this? And maybe I don't get it. I'm willing to accept that I don't understand how they ended up there. But it's like, people who are that smart don't stay in fast food. Sorry, am I the arsehole here? I don't know. Just balance me on this. Am I the arsehole? Because I don't understand.
No. Keep going.
I don't get it. But it's almost like the same thing with these unions. Like, there used to be a good form of union, which was a bunch of people. It was more like a trade guild, right? Like a union of metal workers or of electricians.
Yeah, like medieval trade guilds type thing.
Exactly. And it's like the union, there was a benefit because, they had actual bargaining power, because their members were the most skilled and most capable in a given industry. And that was the strength on which they bargained, and they did good work in return for good wages and good living conditions. Makes total sense. South African unions are bullies. They have no skills. All they have are people that are willing to down tools at the drop of a fucking hat to further ruin the country. And that's how they negotiate. Either give us what we want or nobody gets anything. And it's like, that's why we're in this situation now. So it's like, in terms of skills, they've all left. Like, nobody has...
Yeah, like there's nothing more damning to me than the fact that there is no national union of computer programmers. What does that tell you about the type of people who join unions?
There is that, but also, can you imagine? Can you imagine getting like a notice to stop coding because they want to negotiate? They want to down tools for a month because they're trying to push for a 5% increase, and then you do the math, and it's like, but the salary I lose in this month is worth more than like the next 5 years at that increase. I'd rather have the money now. And then if you don't drop tools, other union members come around to threaten you and beat you up. Like, that is also what happens. There's been lots of stories, especially on the mining side, where it's like the union's down tools, and then after a week, people want to go back to work because like it's not working. They need to earn their income. And then they can't because the unions will send people around to beat them up. So they're basically a bunch of bullies and thugs. They're organized criminals. That's all they are.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how these people still have any kind of pull in our system. But I guess, this is what we have to deal with in South Africa. It's insane.
And I think it's only our unions. You don't see any unions elsewhere acting like this.
Maybe like New York in the 60s and 70s.
That's
like
what I was going to say.
union.
In the 1950s, skyscraper. And I think if we did not have the overwhelmingly high level of financial illiteracy that we have in this country, these unions would not be as successful as they are.
It is bad out there. I can't disclose how or why I know this. I just got to spend some time with some of the data, and it's like, guys, it's bad out there. It really is bad. There are people that legitimately think of store cards as cash. There are people who think of loans as things they don't have to ever pay back. It is bad. Which is, hey, look, it's great news for everyone who sells financial products, right? That's why fin services is still a growth industry. It's just, my God. But yeah, anyway, you see, this makes me more sad than the load shedding. And
does.
What makes me the most sad is that they want to fucking conduct a technical audit now. It's like, what are you guys doing? I don't understand. Like, this is not, power doesn't fall from the sky. It's not like Medupi landed from an alien ship yesterday. It was built at great overinflated expense. It's like, how the fuck do you not know? I can't process that. Like, the load shedding, like if a reactor blows up unexpectedly, okay, sure. But systemic failure, where you know for a fact that what you built, where you put it, the people maintaining it, does nobody have like a big diagram that they can point up and be like, this is the problem because of this? Really? You're going to do an audit in the middle of stage 4 load shedding? That's your solution? You're not going to fire the unions and hire people that can do their jobs? Like what? I don't. What? I can't.
It reminds me of that Principal Skinner memes. Like, am I doing the wrong thing?
Yeah, it's like
no, it's the kids that are out of touch.
It's like,
Esco's like, is this the wrong action to take now? No, it's the public that's out of touch.
South Africa might legitimately be the first market in the world where renewable energy is honestly cheaper than like mass grid produced power. Not because of any huge advance, but just because it's so expensive to rely on Eskom now. That if you factor in the load shedding and equipment damage, it's cheaper to get solar.
I will say though, there is one sort of prevailing argument or thought that's going on around load shedding that grates me immensely, and it's that people keep saying, well, why do we have to keep paying for a service we're not getting? Guys, I hate to be the guy that says this to you, but you're not paying for a service you're not getting. You're just not getting that service. It's not like Eskom is charging you while there is load shedding because your meter isn't ticking up. So yeah. I know that I'm nitpicking with this, but people need to stop saying that. It's annoying.
Although they might want to start saying, why is Soweto not paying? Like, you should see those on
That's
Twitter.
fine. But do not say, I hate all this money I'm spending while in black. You're not spending a damn cent. There is no supply of the product. You are not being charged during load shedding.
So imagine if you were. Like,
then I'd be like, cool, be furious. That's such a...
So here's the thing, like that's absolutely true, especially if you're like on a prepaid meter. Then there's like no way in hell that you can consume power while you're the load shedding. Absolutely. One of the problems that Eskom has, among the many problems, is their internal billing and reconciliation systems. So again, I've done some work on this, and I've probably, like, if you ask anyone who runs a factory in South Africa, they will tell you that billing is a nightmare. A lot of the stuff is estimated. A lot of the stuff is calculated based on what Eskom thinks you owe. And so there's like a lot of back and forth around that. If you're not on prepaid, chances are you're being screwed on your billing. And not because Eskom...
Thankfully, I'm on prepaid.
Yeah, and not because Eskom is like trying to dig more money out of people. It's literally just that they don't know how. So the thing, it's like every time they talk in the press about like, revenue collection is down. I'm like, is that because people aren't buying, or because you guys can't run a proper billing system? Because at this point, I'm not sure which one is more true. But all that being said, yes, there's prepaid. The meters are all calibrated to spec. That's, they won't overcharge for usage. That's, that's as good as you can get. So yes, if you're on a prepaid meter, you're not paying for the inconvenience of being load shedded. Absolutely not. But in either case, I think it's like, in the end, we're all paying for this, because it's not just. How is Eskom even making? Sorry, 400 billion rand in debt, right? Last we checked. Where the fuck are they making money from? Because they said that the cash income, like, oh, hang on, it can service their op expenses, but not their debt, I think was the thing. Which is like, it's ridiculous. I feel like I'm being mentally load shedded every time I talk about this topic. It's just like there's no real end in sight. Other than South Africa agrees to give that R1 trillion gas find off Mossel Bay to China entirely in return for 400 billion to buy Eskom out. Like, I'm like, guys, will be fine, because China will be like, we want that energy, that or America, and whoever makes the deal first, in exchange for those oil fields.
Well, I don't think America is going to be getting at that gas first, purely because now they're the world's largest producer of oil at this point.
But the oil fields aren't in America's territory. Isn't that just because it's like American companies, but they're doing the exploration?
I don't know,
everywhere?
but bottom line is energy-wise, they're sitting pretty. Unless the Democrats get their Green New Deal, which they are so keen for. I don't know if you kept up with that.
Not remotely. Tell me, what is this Green Deal?
Have you ever seen a fight between two people in a couple, and somebody keeps upping the ante, and they're like, yeah, well, I'll just, not have sex with you for a week, or, well, yeah, well, then I'm just going to move out of the house. It was basically that with the Democrats. Like, they kept upping the ante on the Green New Deal, right? And and it got to a point where Senator Mitch McConnell, the head guy of their Senate or whatever, Republican there, he's like, okay, fine. Mitch McConnell, my favorite Republican, actually. They call him Cocaine Mitch / Turtle Mitch. Seriously, Google it. Cocaine Mitch. It's amazing, the memes about him.
Okay.
And he looks like a turtle. He looks like the little turtle from every Disney movie. So he's like, okay, fine. AOC, I will Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I will put your Green New Deal to a vote, and you and your party must vote on this, and we'll pass it. Like, it was one of those things. Like, okay, fine, do it. You kept upping the ante, so do it.
Call the bluff.
Let me describe to you Let me describe to you just a rough outline of what's in this Green New Deal. Replace all fossil fuels in the United States with clean, renewable energy. Replace. Outlaw outlaw airplanes and replace with national high-speed rail.
It's incredibly stupid. Carry on.
Cut down on cows because of the gas. The farting cows. It literally said this. The farting cows produce too much methane. Replace and rebuild all buildings in the United States with which do not conform to environmental standards, and then rebuild them. And hold on, here's the creme de la creme of this.
Hit me.
Guess the timeline in which they want this done.
100 years.
10 years.
What the fuck?
I leave it to you to guess what even attempting this would do to. I don't care what side you're on. This isn't about partisanship, whatever. This is about cold, hard facts and economics and what is actually physically possible. I don't care. People are saying, oh, the Republicans are saying we can't afford it. I don't care about that argument. People are saying, the Democrats are saying this is our moonshot. We can make it. I don't care about that. I care about the reality of what this will do to your infrastructure and your economy. We have airplanes for a reason. Fuck your stupid high.
Okay, there are not enough construction workers and equipment.
Every single power plant, all energy in the United States, with all of it. I'm actually very pro renewable energy. Clean renewable energy. I love it. I love the idea of that. But I'm also a realist that doing that in 10 years. 10 fucking years.
Okay, so...
and also none of this energy can include nuclear energy.
What the fuck are they... Okay, so there's a number of problems with this. The first one being there are not enough people, physically enough people and construction equipment to do that. Not in 20 years. Not when you factor in you got to phase this in and out, right? Like you can't just knock down New York City and rebuild it. Life isn't an Avengers movie. Like what the fuck? I mean, I don't. All right, thank God. Okay, so they're at least as stupid as our unions. At least.
But okay, and here's the best part.
You're right. 10 years.
Guess who signed on this? Not just Ocasio-Cortez.
Who I expect.
Guess who co-signed this?
Hillary Clinton.
I don't know about Hillary, but Kamala Harris,
Okay.
Cory Booker.
Oh no.
I think Nancy Pelosi dodged it, but basically every major Democrat, with the exception of Nancy Pelosi and I think like fringe people like Tulsi Gabbard, every single one of them was like, I proudly co-sign this. This is the greatest. I'm like,
all right, so no, okay. On the plus side, we've managed to
doubling down on this.
on the plus side, we've now managed to ring fence the Democrat brain trust because these people obviously don't have a brain cell between them. They obviously didn't talk to any like economists or actual construction people,
scientists,
nothing.
Literally any scientists of any sort of like.
Too good.
Oh, and remember, no nuclear energy, none whatsoever. Even though it's like modern nuclear technology is like incredibly energy efficient and quite clean.
It's like I don't know
relatively.
I don't know the details, but I read somewhere and I haven't checked this at all. Maybe somebody can send us a WhatsApp note on our voice line to tell us where we're wrong. What was the number again? It was 0713089802. It's on our website. But maybe somebody can explain this in detail. But from what I know, modern nuclear reactors are designed to make it impossible for them to overload catastrophically.
Right. I think there's a really... I won't go into too much detail on this because I know a lot of people aren't fans of all the math I do. But if you really want to look into this, maybe we should link it in the description. But there is a video by a guy called Sam and Ella Academy. Right. And he describes what modern nuclear technologies. He's a very funny, nice YouTuber guy. And by modern nuclear technology, we have to consider that we're talking about not just enriched uranium. We're talking about thorium power plants, right?
Okay.
And thorium and plutonium. Thorium with probably a small amount of plutonium as a helper agent in the reaction. And again, I won't go too deeply into the math, but basically the way I'm gonna bite what Sam said, but basically the way you compare thorium to uranium is like uranium's like that fucking overreactive, hyperactive kid with like sugar in his hands and all that, and he's just wild. You have to watch him at all times. And when he grows up, he becomes that adult that throws all night hot parties, and he does work because he has tons of energy.
Yep.
Plutonium's more like that guy who's just quiet, a hard worker because he has a hard-working ethic. Long story short, plutonium, there is, I think, my math may be wrong here, but roughly 4 to 3 times more uranium, not uranium, roughly 4 to 3 times more thorium in the Earth's mantle as there is uranium. There is about 10 times more concentration of thorium in thorium ore than there is uranium in uranium ore. It's more abundant. It's easier to get to. It doesn't... its nuclear structure is such that it doesn't acclimate or it doesn't sort of fizzle off into really toxic radioactive gas easily. It's fairly stable until you get that plutonium helper in. And the design of modern power plants is such that if a runaway reaction happens, the helper agent is depleted and the reaction plug in the reservoir melts and seals the reaction. So it's a self-killing reaction, basically.
Okay, so basically we've not only found a more stable isotope, we've also found a way to give it like a fuse. If it overloads, it just melts. And
Yeah, it's literally a self-killing reaction.
But let's throw that away and put solar panels everywhere because we're socialists and we don't understand economics. I am loving that this is where we're going. You know what? Next to this, Trump's wall seems more reasonable.
But yeah, I really recommend that video if you want more detail on it. But yeah,
we'll link it.
Long story short, nuclear energy, because people think of nuclear energy like, oh, Chernobyl and oh, 3 Mile Island and oh, Fukushima. I'm like, okay, Chernobyl, the Russians aren't exactly renowned for their great maintenance thing. It's like, it's archaic just past that thing must have been built just past the Second World War. It's archaic ass technology that wasn't very well kept anyway. 3 Mile Island, unfortunate, but it happens. And Fukushima wasn't the power plant. It was just natural disaster. Also, maybe not build your power plant on a fucking near a fault line, near tsunami territory.
And that's something geologists can actually find. If you ask them, they will tell you where the earthquakes are likely to happen. Like, this is not mystery. But it is, I think, worth pointing out that it's not as if nuclear tech stopped advancing. It's not like they had Chernobyl and went, it's like, oh, well, I guess that's it. And then they kept building more Chernobyls. That's obviously not what happened. You know, so okay, it's interesting because again, when I think nuclear, I think uranium, which is extremely dangerous, but thorium. Okay, this is like
thorium. Also, the nature of thorium is such that it's significantly more difficult to convert into a nuclear weapon as fissile.
So it's not like you can enrich it, because like I think old school nuclear weapon, like first generation, was basically you built a critical mass and then the detonation, as it were, was just shoving a catalyst in.
It's like with old school power plants, it was pretty much a nuclear bomb that was just slowly happening. Heat from the, but like, new school sort of thorium technology. Like, for example, when they wanted to give, Iran or Iraq, the nuclear
one of the IRAs. I don't know which IRA.
They're like, oh, and one party in America was like, don't give it to them, they're gonna make bombs, and they're like, no, they just want atoms for peace and all that. I would have been 100% comfortable giving them that stuff if we were giving them thorium. That's how confident I am in how difficult it is to turn thorium into a nuclear weapon.
But unfortunately, none of that will teach socialist economics. So
no,
there is no reaction in the world. Like, hopefully there's a critical mass of like financial literacy which results in a catalyzing reaction which converts all the socialists into the much more stable isotope of people who understand how the fuck things work and don't. 10 years. Like, okay, so high-speed rail throttles your capacity for transit in a much more real sense than airplanes do. Oh my god, there's so much wrong with that. I can't, but it's fine. I mean, like, all of this it's constant. There used to be a time, and I think in the UK it still largely is the case, maybe less so post-Brexit, but there used to be a time when politics was a thing that happened for like a couple months a year around the election season. And then for the rest of the year, people got on with the business of governing. In the US, since Obama, it's been politics. It's like been campaigning every single day, ever, constantly, just all the fucking time. They're thinking about the 2024 elections right now, you know? And it's like, so obviously it's all politics. But the problem with this is, politics is all about exciting promises that you're never really going to deliver. And if that's how you are doing this stuff all the time, eventually things fly apart. Like, that's been South Africa. Since 94, there's been these grandiose promises and constantly not delivered. So, but anyway, I love the fact that you can have a socialist putting forth a Reboot.
10 years, dude. 10. All planes, farting cows, all of that out. Knock down every building, all the energy.
So the thing is, of all of that, I will say that the reduction in meat consumption is something which is potentially attainable. There has been a shift in, call them first world markets, quote unquote. There has been a huge shift towards vegetarian food. The technology has advanced to the point where they can simulate traditional meat dishes quite well. And there's a break happening away from vegans, which are insane, or specifically veganism. I should be really clear on this.
I actually have an anecdote about this meat substitute thing.
Yeah.
But,
There's a bunch of cool tech, and again, it hasn't stopped. And apparently, again, this is not really confirmed, but in the last 12 months or the last fiscal year, the demand for predominantly plant-based foods in the UK has gone up over 600%, or some crazy percentage like that, because it's gotten to the point where like vegetable comfort food, I mean, it's not any healthier, right? You can absolutely overload on potatoes and shit. But it is meat-free. And the food has gotten to the point where it's good enough to replace burgers for a lot of people. So it's like, not vegetarianism or veganism doesn't necessarily mean eating shit food. There's good food out there. As distinct from the religion, which is dangerous, the actual diet is fine. And I think, reducing the amount of meat consumed is a reasonable prospect, I think. Replacing all the buildings in the US with green energy compliant, no, that's not. But anyway, so that's like the one thing where it's like, yeah, maybe, 10 years is enough time to kind of embed a new trend and all the rest.
But all farting cows? I'm sorry, no, that's not going to happen.
All that happens, the way this happens is that the demand for beef starts reducing, right? Which means that there's an oversupply, the prices drop, and then over time the whole thing reaches a new equilibrium where they stop producing more cows, right? Because they have to produce, like if they birth a cow now, it's to meet demand for food in like 5 years or something, however long the cow takes to actually mature. It's not like you can switch it off immediately. There's a lead time.
Depends on the type of beef you want, but you can raise a cow in about a year.
In about a year. So even then, it's
year and a half.
Yeah, but even then, it's still not like, overnight, we're not eating beef anymore. What happens now? Those cows are still going to die at some point, right? But eventually, sure, you could phase it all out. It's just piggybacking that on rebuild everything in the US in 10 years. Maybe they don't know how big America is.
Maybe based on their ideology, the current Democrat Party's ideology, they genuinely believe America consists of New York and LA and maybe Florida and maybe Houston.
Yeah, because
and Washington. And when I say New York, they genuinely believe New York is just that New York City, not New York State, which if you factor out New York City, New York State is actually bright red. It's very much more conservative than New York City itself.
Because the thing is, I love the idea, the concept of flyover states, because in the mind of the average sort of city dweller on either of the coasts, flyover states condenses the rest of the country into like just one block of, who even knows what they are, was that a dog in the background?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. I am recording at my non-usual recording location, guys.
Yeah,
and my mom, like every aging lady in the country, obsesses with having one of these yappy little lap dogs around, and it's snuck into my recording area.
A yapper. All right, so we might have some yapping, beyond just the regular shit talking on the show. I'm glad you told me about the 10-year plan, because now at least we know where these guys stand on, aligning to reality.
What got me though is that every single, almost every single prominent Democrat co-signed this vigorously, except for like 2 or 3. So that's like, okay, first you up the ante.
Yeah.
Then Mitch McConnell calls your bluff. Then the rest of you are like, fuck it, I'm doubling down. Like, I'm signing, I'm co-signing,
Is Cory Booker still desperately trying to be Spartacus? Remember, there was that whole thing.
Yes. He's like, this is our moonshot. This is our... I'm like, Cory, dude, just...
Guys...
And what gets me about this is that also some of the Democrats are now blaming the Republicans. Like, why did Mitch McConnell do this? I'm like, he just called your bluff.
It's like we weren't expecting to ever action this plan. We were just expecting to talk it up.
I'm like,
oh my God.
So you're mad at Mitch McConnell for putting it to a vote in the Senate? And I'm like,
we never met.
That's kind of what he's supposed to do, like per job description, right?
Yeah.
Like,
No, but that is up the ante type of logic, right? It's like you never actually expect the person to call your bluff. You just want to vent and make the other person feel bad, because for as long as there's this dream of, by 2030 America can be this shining renewable, like, city on a hill type of thing. For as long as that dream is alive, the Republicans look like idiots. But the moment you poke a hole in it and be like, well, actually, here's your first problem: there is not enough construction machinery in the country to physically do the work of,
Yeah, like if you had infinite money to do it, there's still not enough.
Which also, and infinite money is also a thing that doesn't exist. My favorite is, you guys want to redo the whole US in 10 years, but they couldn't sort Flint out in how many years? Like, it's still a problem. Like, you want to do the whole US? Good luck. Good luck.
Good luck with that. So I was just like, when I heard this deal, I was like, okay, well, good luck with that, AOC.
But it's like, it's classic politics, right? Because they'll put it to a vote, and it's like, if the vote succeeds, that's the worst case scenario, because then they're accountable for delivering this 10-year vision, which cannot possibly work. So they need the vote to fail, because then it's like, oh, you see, the old white male conservative Republican Senate is blocking the future, and that's the narrative they need to build, right? So they actually need these defeats, quote unquote, to make it look like they're the ones trying to kind of push America into the future. Meanwhile, the future is, clean nuclear energy and stuff that actually scales, not...
Like you said, I'm counting the thorium as our tech discussion partially, by the way. But yeah, stuff like thorium reactors.
Which, look, and that's good to know, because I also, it's not something I ever really think about. I just sort of assume that... and there's more than one nuclear fuel, right? It's not
exactly.
Like just uranium.
But I mean, like I said, right now, thorium is the runaway favorite because, again, it is incredibly abundant in the Earth's crust. It is higher concentration per lump of ore.
Yep.
It doesn't turn into super deadly gas, and it doesn't require immense amounts of energy and economic input to enrich it to get the energy out. Like,
and also the best is it's named after the Norse god of war. So really, it just wins on all 5 counts. Like, uranium is named after Uranus, which is just horrible. So clearly, on the meme basis alone, we should go for thorium.
Yeah.
If there was Zeusium, we'd go for that too.
True story, fam.
All right, so shifting gears for a second, one of the original writers of the Stargate franchise has been tapped to do a reboot of the series. We might see new Stargate in the next few years. I am hyped for that, personally. I don't know if you give a shit. I'm going to assume you don't.
I dabbled in Stargate, and at this point, based on everything that's happened to some of my other favorite franchises, I think I'm going to dabble even deeper in Stargate if this reboot works out well. Cautious optimism, because at this point, I've lost many franchises which I once loved. Fuck it, I'm just going to say it outright. I lost Star Wars, and I fucking loved Star Wars, okay?
We all lost Star Wars. I think that just the other day they finished principal photography for the next installment.
Rogue One was the last good Star Wars. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel sad. But also, okay, so somewhat related to this, I thought this was really funny. So Elon Musk, years ago, Elon Musk and a bunch of others got together and funded a thing called OpenAI. And the initiative was to develop AI technologies and like share their research, to advance the kind of ethics of it, so that we're not caught out by like a Skynet situation. Noble project. They produced a system called GPT-2, which is basically deep fakes for text. It's like a next generation Markov chain system that they can feed it articles and it can write, predictive fake stories. But a lot of them look pretty decent. It's a substantial advance over old school, just like your old school classic Markov chains that used to run like IRC bots and shit. The part that I find incredibly amusing is that they're shying away from releasing that technology to the public because they're worried about how it might be misused. Because effectively it's like deep fakes for text. That's kind of how they called it. And it can write news stories that look sort of legitimate. And they gave an example where they scanned a Guardian article and then the system wrote another Guardian article, like a fake one, and then they quoted from that. And the thing is, I read the fake quote and I'm like, to the average person who is not like a political scientist, this reads just like the exact same garbage you guys write every other day anyway. Like, honestly, can't tell the difference between this. And neither can anyone else. Like, if you're not paying close attention, you'll just lose track. And it's like, a lot of politicians speak in these vague doublespeak terms anyway. So you can generate a fake quote for a politician, and at some point it might sound like something they actually said, you know?
Right.
Whereas the reality, I mean, of course I'm talking about first world markets. In South Africa, there's an actual quote that actually happened. Where was it? Some Eastern Cape Minister for Water and Sanitation blamed the apartheid government for building the dams too big. Because they built the dams smaller, they'd fill up faster and we wouldn't run out of water. And it's like, that's a joke, right? That must be a no, it was fucking real. And I was just like, guys, what? So it's like, I don't think you can have a deepfakes for text and you can have a programmatic news site and no one will give a shit because it doesn't.
Maybe we should contextualize what deepfakes is for everyone.
Yeah, let's get into deepfakes. Do you want to take that on?
Deepfakes is, okay, it's essentially...
Scary good.
What's it relate to? Okay, Paul Walker, who died before they finished the last Fast and the Furious, right? And they had his brother replace him, and like they CGI'd his face onto his brother's body as they did the last few scenes. It's kind of like that. It's effectively manipulative technology whereby you can have somebody speaking and you can mimic somebody's movements and talking and gestures. But the AI learns how to project somebody else's, let's say, face onto that person.
Yep.
Very high level description, not exactly it, but yeah.
So there's a Grammy Awards acceptance speech by Emma Stone.
No, I don't want to think about
yes,
that.
I'm going for it.
No, I almost forgot it.
No. Sorry. There's Emma Stone giving some Academy whatever acceptance speech, and somebody deepfaked Steve Buscemi's face onto her.
No. I almost forgot. Come on. That will haunt my dreams for life.
Hang on. If you Google Steve Buscemi deepfake, I think like the first video that comes up.
Do you have any idea how horrific that was?
It was published like 2 weeks ago.
Expected Amy to win. So
and the thing is, you look at that video and it's like Photoshop, but it's a video, right? The face is mapped on so perfectly. The shadows, the movements, like it blends into the skin. It's fucking. I'm looking at it right now. It is crazy scary.
I'm not going to look at it.
We'll link it in the description. So that's deepfakes, and obviously
at your own peril. FYI, I'm warning you people.
So that's deep. It's deepfakes, and that. So that's for video, and then there's other technology for audio. There's a system called Lyrebird, Lyre, named after the actual lyrebird, which can learn how to talk. Lyrebird can train itself on voice samples and then produce any kind of voice. So between these two, it's like you can record Donald Trump giving an actual speech, and then you can deepfake map an actor to mouth a particular thing, and you can override what the footage shows, and then you can also synthesize his voice. So you could make someone, and it looks like legit footage, you can make someone say anything you want.
Exactly, and there's two major applications for this right off the bat.
Yep, politics and porn, right? I think that's pretty much...
Boom, yeah. Well, I was going to say criminal enterprise and porn, but close enough.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing. But it's like, the thing is, and people are like, oh my God, we're so worried because it's like, now you can have, these videos of people saying anything. And I'm like, well, before we had deepfakes, we had Facebook, and you already have people who will believe things despite all the evidence. So does it really matter? There's an increase in measles cases because there are people who have all the evidence and still refuse to vaccinate their kids. Like, you don't need deepfakes for that. You couldn't deepfake Jenny McCarthy into doing that when you have a real Jenny McCarthy who's that fucking stupid. So it's like, does it matter? Does it actually matter? And I don't think it does. Frankly, I think it doesn't matter that we have this technology.
I think for more extreme cases like violent crimes like murder and rape, you deep fake somebody into that does matter.
For sure, yeah, exactly. But then it's
in terms of getting people to, we're already there anyway.
Yeah, I saw another like really heartbreaking headline the other day. There was a couple somewhere in Florida who was arrested, and you can tell they're vegans just from like the shot of them in court. The dude has like dreads. They're white. The dude has dreads, and the girl.
Oh,
looks
white
like,
dude dreads.
Yeah, exactly. And it's
what
like,
would every college campus be without white dude dreads?
Oh my God. And so And it's like, I don't even want to fucking think about that. That's my Steve Buscemi, is white people with dreads. But anyway, and the story is actually pretty crazy. They went to a vegan doctor who prescribed a vegan-based diet for their kid. And the thing is, it was a good diet. Nutritionally speaking, it was perfectly fine. They ignored the vegan doctor's advice and took something off the internet. And after like a year, the kid was basically on the edge of death. He looked like, from the description, I didn't see a photo, but it looked like that kind of, whenever you see like a starving kid, ribcage exposed from like Ethiopia, that sort of shit, but in the heart of Florida, from two parents who could afford to feed their kid properly. And it's like, okay, at this point, you had a vegan doctor telling vegans how to have a vegan recipe for a vegan kid that would have worked, and they ignored that in favor of the internet. Bring on the deep fakes, because at this point, it doesn't fucking matter. People are just that stupid, and it's like, nothing. It's not going to matter. It's just not going to matter. So, look, faking evidence for criminal prosecution and shit, yes, that is actually a huge problem. How do you, but then even so, it's like, it's not, yeah. Have you ever seen bank security camera footage? It's always like the most blurry as shit videos as it is. So sure, there's definitely damage, but I don't think it's nearly as widespread as these AI people panic. I think it's almost like they're trying to head off this future where everyone is basically smart and they get fooled by a smart machine. In reality, everyone is basically stupid and the machine doesn't matter. So that's pretty much where we are, as depressing as that sounds. Anyway, now you know that there is a deepfake video. It was Jennifer Lawrence. Sorry, I don't know why I said Emma Stone. Jennifer Lawrence, Steve Buscemi deepfake.
Sorry. It doesn't matter. Okay, that video will haunt my dreams for life.
We'll link it in the podcast description because I think more people need to see it.
I really was hoping we didn't have to go into that, but yeah.
Yes, but we did. All right, so what other good tech topics are there this week?
Well, I wouldn't call deepfakes a good tech topic, but yeah, we've covered sort of advanced energy. We've covered deepfakes, and by the way, now I remembered the anecdote I wanted to have in terms. I guess this is tech. In terms of I was when was the last time? The last time I was at NYU was December 2017, so about 2 years ago. I was at NYU, and we were at one of their eating halls, one of their meal halls, and they had like a vegan meals section, right? And I mean, obviously, I know of vegan stuff and vegetarian stuff, but I didn't know the level they were on. I mean, one of my friends who was with me at the time was like, "Yeah, try this meat substitute." I think it was like meat substitute chicken cutlet or something like that. And I went into it with an open mind, and yeah, I could tell this isn't quite chicken, but holy shit, that was not the train smash I expected. Like, it was so close, and it was mildly satisfying. I'm like, and this is something they serve in their cafeterias at NYU. I'm like, no wonder it's $50,000-$60,000 a year to go to NYU, because you serve people like top of the line food, like all the food in that cafeteria was. It was like being in a 3-star restaurant, 4-star restaurant buffet.
So on that, there's one actual technological breakthrough in food technology that we should talk about more, which is the Impossible Burger. I don't know if you've heard of this.
No.
So the company is called Impossible Foods, and they basically came up with a recipe using, it's probably changed since I last looked, but it was like involving like soy and a bunch of other proteins and some fibers, and a ingredient, I think it was heme. But basically they worked out how to very closely approximate meat. The texture, the smell, the taste. And so they kind of put out, this was a few years ago now, the Impossible Burger. And the whole thing was, it was a patty that you could kind of form up and cook, and it was like mincemeat. That has now made its way into South Africa. It's known as the Beyond Meat plant-based burger. You can actually get them. There's a place in Cape Town that sells them. And these burgers, I still actually want to try one myself. But from the people that eat meat, they've reviewed it, and they've said you can still kind of tell it's plant-based, but it's close enough to like real meat that if you give it to somebody like an average McDonald's, burger, it would be good enough. It would definitely be good enough. So it's like we're already at the point where going vegan doesn't necessarily mean having to give up the sort of, because I mean, let's be honest, like fried chicken, beef, it's like soul food almost. Like it's great to eat that stuff. Going vegan doesn't mean, carrots and celery sticks. The technology has advanced to the point where they can simulate meat-based diets. And so I think that's pretty freaking cool. Once it goes mainstream as a diet, I'm hoping that the religion just dies out. These people who are just insane. But that's a real thing. I mean, you can look up, it's the Beyond Meat burger, and there's obviously a stand in Cape Town. I don't think Pretoria will have any of this shit. Because
No,
Pretoria,
we will not. We are still proudly red meat based and brandy based.
exactly. But culturally, I think you can see Cape Town, like the hipsters here, would be like,
Yeah, that's so Cape Town. That is 100% Cape Town.
Yeah.
Well, even just the substitutes, and just let's say we have Star Trek style replicators where you can literally just atomize an actual steak before you. I wouldn't be against that either.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy meat because I enjoy the thought that an animal had to die for me to have that. So if there was some approximation, like close enough, like you say, or if in the future we have literal, 3D printing atomizers that can atomize a steak for me, great. I don't need something to die for me to enjoy this food.
And it's like, it's also like just the economics of it. I mean, meat has been a part of our diet for a very long time, and there will always still be people who raise animals to slaughter them for meat. Like, it's never going away. But
we have a farm. My family has a farm, and my mom we raise pigs. I mean, a small enough farm that we raise pigs, and I mean, we have a couple of cows here that we've occasionally slaughtered for family events and things like that.
Yep.
But
and look, that's never at risk of going away. Actually, it's just I mean, but there is a big difference. I mean, I've spent time on both small scale farms and one factory farm, and I can tell you, like the small scale farms where it's like there's a couple of cows and you pick the ones that are kind of near the end of their life and they've lived well. That's a very different scenario from like the massive factory farming feedlot situation, which is where most beef comes from.
Yeah, like with my mom's pigs, like it's different to like. I mean, that's the main product she sells, but and to abattoirs.
And it's like the thing is, right now the ethics of it are divorced. So there's from many years ago there was a documentary, Food Inc., which is kind of like, it was written by a bunch of activists, obviously, but it was a good documentary because they looked at how the consolidation of power in the US had kind of meant that the food lobby, I can't believe that's a thing, but it is, the food lobby is actually tremendously powerful. And they kind of go into all the stuff there. And one of the things was banning photography of their factory farms. Because if people actually saw what was going on, it might change their opinion of it. And that already kind of tells you enough. Like, we like animals. People like animals. That's why we keep pets. It's, no one likes to think of anything suffering that much. But that's the unfortunate necessity to meet the demand for meat right now. And I think it's better overall if we can simulate that, through plant-based stuff. And not skipping out on any of the taste, the nutrition, nothing. I mean, the whole thing was the burger that they put together had slightly less calories, but nutritionally gave you the same iron, the same riboflavin, all the shit you got from meat, you could get through this Impossible Burger as well. So it's not even like I'm trying to force you to eat healthier. It's just the burger didn't require an animal. So I don't know. That's the part of the future I'm actually kind of looking forward to, honestly.
Or just replicators where you can have an actual Philly cheesesteak, not even like a substitute. Actually, just 3D print one out.
Although I guess assuming we end up with a future like that, can you imagine? People are going to DRM that shit. There will be like recipe licensing. Can you imagine the economics of that? Because even I love it. There's this like that naive view that one day it'll be like Star Trek and we'll have replicators and we'll have everything. Culture topic, kind of related. I am very, very happy with Star Trek Discovery Season 2. They are starting to knock it out of the park.
Really?
Yes. Star Trek Discovery Season 1 was like a little bit janky for the first half. They could have cut the first 2 episodes completely and started with episode 3. It felt a bit awkward, but as of season 2, I think they're really finding their voice. And one of the things, in the old Star Treks, all of them, Deep Space Nine, Next Generation, all of them, we all kind of, like, the whole world kind of accepted that everything ran on dilithium, right? And there was an episode in Next Generation where these 2 eco-activists tried to point out that warp travel was damaging the fabric of space, and there was like a whole thing where they had to restrict the warp speed and all the rest. Nowhere in any of that was there ever a conversation about the ethics of mining dilithium. And so there's a part in episode 2 where it's like, season 1 introduced the spore drive, and then there's the guy Stamets arguing in favor of how this is a better alternative to dilithium. And then they got the comic Tig Notaro to play, I think it's Jane Reno or something, an engineer. She's fucking amazing. she's like the anti-Scotty. She's like this kind of grumpy, it's beautiful. I love her character the most. And they're having an argument about that. And she's like, well, dilithium has been good enough for the last 200 years. And the spore drive guy's like, but you understand that you're strip mining whole planets and it's destroying ecologies. And it's like, God damn, they never went into that in the previous Star Trek. So it's like, and it's not even like it's an in-your-face thing. It's just like this, they're taking it to a different place with this new one. And I really quite enjoy that. But anyway, the reason I got onto that is through all of this, if we end up with Star Trek style replicators, that doesn't mean economics goes away. No technological advance will defeat economics. So there will definitely be premium grade licensing where you download a replicator file at cost to be able to print.
Unless we work our way around the laws of thermodynamics. The minute we can break the laws of thermodynamics, which I am in the scientific camp that still very much believes that we can't.
Yeah, you can't.
Everything goes out the window. Our very models of that will make economics and everything else go out the window if we can break the laws of thermodynamics.
Yeah, actual infinite supply, not just the kind of simulation of it.
That will give us actual infinite supply of whatever we want, and then it's like, well, screw it. Speaking of the ethics of meat from a Black culture perspective, I don't know, maybe we'll get into Black history section now. From a Black culture perspective, the ethics around meat for me has never been divorced, because what lands up on my plate has never been divorced from me, because my family owns a small farm, but most Black kids who, have been brought up culturally in South Africa, even if they don't have a small holding of land, they at some point in their lives, as a rite of passage, have had to slaughter meat for a rite of passage or for a funeral or wedding or something. So the ethics around, around the chicken or the beef or the pork, I have slaughtered chickens, sheep, cows, pigs. I personally don't really enjoy slaughtering pigs. It's really uncomfortable. But as much as I love bacon, but that's never been divorced from me in my mind because of cultural reasons. I've always been brought up so I know how to skin, this animal and how to prepare various parts for various types of meals. So that's never been divorced for me, actually. And maybe that's another factor to consider.
No, it is. There's definitely a respect that comes from that. I mean, I've only gotten as far as slaughtering my own chicken. If I could, with direction, I'm sure I could do a sheep or a goat.
We'll do a no script show special where you come up to.
It's not going to be like, they have those reality shows in the States where it's like, two girls from the city try and rough it. And it's like, oh my God, there's blood everywhere. I'm not going to be like that. Like, I understand what's inside an animal. I'll probably be fine with it. But all right, so...
Nothing dangerous. Not like a cow. Cows are dangerous to slaughter. We'll do like a sheep.
Yeah. Sheep is safe. And hey, mutton is pretty good. So we're actually at our hour and we haven't spoken about our Black History heroes. So do you have one prepared for this week?
Yeah, well, actually, since we sort of started with the cultural note, it's not heroes, but rather a heroic institution that I'd like to highlight this year, or rather this week in this year. It's been a long week. And that is the University of Fort Hare.
Yes, in the Free State, right?
Yeah, it's actually, it depends on your main campus, but it's in Alice.
Okay.
I don't think everyone knows where Alice is, but suffice it to say it's in the Eastern Cape, guys.
Eastern Cape. Oh, sorry. I don't know why I said Free State. My bad.
Sorry, not Free State, Eastern Cape.
Eastern Cape, right.
And it used to be an actual fort. You can look up the article on Fort Hare in the thing. But, its list of alumni include, obviously, people like Oliver Tambo, Nelson Mandela, Lionel Nhana, Seretse Khama, first president of Botswana.
Nice.
The great Seretse Khama himself. Julius Nyerere, first president of Tanzania. Who else? Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Chris Hani, who we already covered on the show today. It's Robert Sebukwe. Unfortunately, it also includes Robert Mugabe, but let's not get into that.
Yeah, we'll just pretend he didn't exist. It's fine. Moving on.
Mangosuthu Buthelezi. It's alumni. Its list of alumni reads like a who's who list of the sort of heroes that a lot of the young black revolutionaries and EFF types just sort of put on a pedestal these days, which is fine because a lot of those people on that list, yes, I include Nelson Mandela much to the irkment of the millions of people who will froth and call him a terrorist, whatever. We'll get into that at a different point. It's a who's who list of these black heroes, consciousness heroes, thinking heroes, liberation heroes, and yet tell me which revolutionary or black sort of EFF member. Okay, I'm picking on the EFF, but that's because I have special hate for them. But
they pick on everyone else, so it's completely justified.
Yeah, show me the EFF member that's gone to Fort Hare. They all have degrees from Wits. Okay, they all have degrees from fucking Wits, the white monopoly, white monopoly.
My God. I had actually.
Yeah,
that is a huge point, actually, because it's not just about.
If you loved them so much, why did you not go there yourself? Why not go where your heroes went? Is it because you're full of shit? Because I think that's why.
I think at this point we don't even need that data point to know for a fact that the EFF is. I'm still rattled that in their manifesto they want to regulate the production of telenovelas, which isn't even a fucking thing. It's not a thing in South Africa. What?
I told you, fam. Stop copying my homework. At least change it a little bit.
Jesus.
It's just.
It's not a thing. It's like regulated.
You literally didn't even change the names in the homework. You just copied the person's thing.
From from Cuba. It must have been from Cuba. Or Venezuela or something. Like, Cuba. What the fuck? I can't. It's like, I mean, at least have your pretend revolutionary regulate a thing that we actually produce. Like lottery tickets or vuvuzelas. Not telenovelas. Fucking nowhere. No, dude,
You didn't even. I told you. Yeah, can I copy your homework? Yeah, just change some stuff. Nope, didn't change it. Just submitted it.
All they did was they pasted a bunch of shit into a Word doc, clicked fixed numbering, and then printed that, and that was their fucking manifesto. That's what they did.
I can't. But yeah.
I just like if you're gonna be stupid, at least be smart about it, right? Like, at least put some thought into your.
Clearly, none of them went to Fort Hare, but
right. So clearly that, but it's interesting because for white and black students, Wits isn't almost like the intellectual capital of like the progressive movement in South Africa. Like
I guess so. Yeah.
I think UCT is trying really hard to win that position, but it's Cape Town. We're
doubling down on the progressives. But the reason I actually highlight Fort Hare is because of an incident that happened a while ago.
Okay.
Which was during the whole Fees Must Fall movement. I mean, I lived close enough to Tuck's main campus. Tuck's, by the way, whose VC was Cheryl Dilleray, a woman of color who identifies as a progressive feminist.
Copy that.
I don't know why people were rioting at her. Like, all the other universities I can understand, but your VC at Tux is a colored woman who identifies as a radical feminist. But sure, I guess even she's not far left enough. The reason I think is because a lot of property was damaged, both on main campus and around buildings, bars, pubs, apartments and stuff. And also in the days after that, a lot of demands were made, like, we should no longer have this tradition, or we should change this residence's name, or whatever. And there's various arguments about that. But the most poignant point of this whole thing for me was my mom crystallized this perfectly when she said, I don't understand kids in your generation these days. They have this obsession with destroying what is there already. Why can you not put this much energy or a fraction of it into building up institutions like Fort Hare, which produced the very heroes you claim to worship. And I was like, that's it, Mom. I feel the exact same way. Why can you not build up? You're mad because this institution has it. Have it for yourself.
You know what? And it's the culture.
No one's stopping you.
And
not the black government, the black military, the black...
Dude, what black military? The SANDF doesn't have a rifle between them, between all the gangs stealing their shit, but that's like another topic. So
her point there just crystallized it perfectly for me.
And I think this is probably a good place to end the episode by looping it back to the ESCOM and the load shedding. It's that we've built a culture where destruction is rewarded. The more you can destroy, the more it rewards you with the power and the influence over the government, the ability to win these positions and these contracts. Like, the unions are bullying us into subservience to them, basically, and that culture has permeated all the way down into the youth leagues and the universities. So it's no longer about building; it's about threatening to destroy and using that as the power that you wield. Because yes, absolutely, we should be building stronger institutions, and the people, and it's like the people that are capable of pulling that together should be the ones rewarded. So, like on the closing note here, major shout out and sincere and eternal appreciation to Helen Ziller for all she has done. In the last week, she gave her final State of the Province address as Premier. So she's now sort of in the sunset of her premiership. And some people have started reflecting on just how much she's actually done for the country. It's been a tremendous amount. If you take the fullness of her contribution, it's actually staggering. She's like one of the last few actual governance heroes. So from my side, as a Cape Townian, sincere thanks, and also holy folk, who are you leaving us with? Because I don't have a lot of confidence in these new kids. So please come back and help save us from these fuckers who don't understand that we need desalination. Like, please. Like, we need...
No, because then we have to... Then you're a Zionist, okay? We don't want Israel technology here. By the way, to anyone listening, that was a joke. I'm making fun of the legions of fucking idiots who hate Israel so much that they would rather die of thirst than take the desalination technology.
And that might actually be a positive outcome, because then at least they couldn't vote. Dude, I'm getting really fucking despondent about our politics. It is scary and sad, but that is it from me for this week.
Thanks, guys.
Closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts. It's been a rough one. I'm back to work, but the elections are coming up, both in South Africa and in the US. It's going to be a rocking 2 years, guys. Stay safe, and no matter what you do, try to keep your head about you, and don't let anger lead you into banding into ideas or people that really aren't who you are.
Yeah, that's great advice. Don't fall into a tribe. Awesome. Yeah. So just a reminder, we have a WhatsApp voice line, 071 308 9802. That and all the other details are at noscriptshow.com. Be safe, be smart. Your future depends on it.
Cheers.
Cheers.